Mina. Just gonna make a quick point before the review. You know, in Japan right now, sought after retro game stuff is getting more and more expensive. When talking about a system like the pcengine or Grafx-16 as you may know it, pretty much all of the software for it is going to be in Japan, as it had way much more success here. As such, you are then beholden to the prices being charged in Japan because you're unlikely to find the software elsewhere in the world. pcengine games are, relatively speaking, more expensive in Japan compared to the Famicom, Super Famicom and PlayStation, for example. But for every expensive pcengine game, there are some that have fallen between the cracks, like last episode's Sun 2, and others which have fallen even further into obscurity mean you can still buy box-complete copies for about 500 yen. Gaia no Monshou, or Crest of Gaia, is one such game, a fantasy strategy game released in 1988. Is it 500 yen because it's mediocre, or because it's totally forgotten? In truth, I think it's because it's completely outclassed. Gaia no Monshou was a very early strategy game, first appearing on the NEC PC-88 and Sharp X1, and then ported to the PC Engine. In this game, you either have different units trying to overcome the opposing force on a grid of offset hexes or squares in this case. Gaia no Monshou is not an RPG. There are no levelling of units, the magic use is random in its application, and I think the Japanese Wikipedia article describes its genre best. It's a war simulation game. It's a hard-as-nails game, but for the right person, it will get into your head, and one day, you'll pick up the password you jotted down and try the next campaign scenario just one more time. There is something about this game that I just can't quite let go of. It's a direct predecessor to the more famous Languisher series, or War Song, as the first game was called in North America on the Sega Genesis. One of my favourite websites, Kimi the Game Eating She-Monster, says of this game that you're seeing a genre come out of the primeval mud. Fantastic description. I think I've taken a few too many bumps to my head skating to come up with that kind of sparkly prose, but it sums it up perfectly. The word that comes to my mind with this game is obtuse. The manual is slight and only describes the light forces units, meaning that aside from magic, the dark forces capabilities are not in the manual at all. This means there is a lot of trial and error involved, such as what unit is effective against what, and that means a time investment. The game has 3 modes: Scenario, Construction, and Campaign. Scenario allows you to play any scenario out of the 30 available with preset forces to play with. Construction allows you to make any fantasy force you like and play out a scenario of your choice. And the meat of the game is in the campaign mode, which I'll get into a little bit later. You can play as the light or the dark side against the computer, or you can play 2-player. Next, you will choose your magic from a list of 3 options, along with not using magic at all. Even if you choose to use magic, sometimes it appears that this will fail, and you'll be set to play the scenario without any magic indicated by shi or shinai on the turn indicator. I have yet to figure out why this happens, but it appears to be down to luck. The main indicators of each of your units' potential is at the start of each campaign scenario. When choosing your units, the attack strength, defense strength, attack range, and movement range stats are displayed, giving some indication of a unit's effectiveness. Once the battle starts, one side will gain the initiative at random, but as the battle unfolds, the side which is making better progress will be more likely to gain that initiative. The manual does explain what can influence this hidden dice roll in the rules. On each turn you gain the initiative, you can move your units and attack, but if you attack first, you can't move afterwards. When the cursor is over one of your own units, its remaining health points and attack power is shown at the bottom of the screen, but when the cursor is over an enemy unit, only its class will be displayed, no other stats. So sometimes it feels like you are pobbling away at the enemy to no effect. Obtuse indeed. Attacking is dead simple. Move the cursor over your unit, choose attack from the menu, move the cursor over the enemy within range, and then the attack will happen. There are no commands to use magic, as magic is dealt out randomly, and if you're playing as the light side, the screen will flash white to signify that magic took effect, or flash black if the dark side's magic took effect. Some magic is permanent throughout the scenario though, such as Waza or skill magic, which allows attacks from a greater distance for some units such as archers and crossbows. But if your opponent has chosen Kizu or Mist, this can counteract your magic, restricting archers and crossbows to attacking directly 1 square or hex ahead. This makes it very hard to win a battle. In addition to move and attack, the other option, Retreat, is only available to certain units and when you have approached the edge of the map to do this. This option only makes sense in the campaign mode. In campaign mode, you start with 12 points to spend. Certain units take more points, so you have to balance out your budget, so to speak. Each scenario has a set ideal turn amount. If you take down your opponent in fewer than the set turns, you will gain a point for each turn under the limit. However, if you go over, each extra turn will minus a point. This is important as you will want to gain points to afford better units in the next scenario. Go way over, and whilst you could end up winning the scenario, you could fail the campaign due to there not being enough points available for you to proceed. In addition, any units lost in battle will be minus points as well. This is where retreating is an option, as you won't lose points as a result. In essence, to win at this game, not only do you need victories, you need pretty decisive ones too. This game just does not spare you. As for the Japanese level, in many ways this game is so simple in actual gameplay that anyone can play it. The game is a mix of mostly Japanese and a little English. The Japanese is written exclusively in hiragana with good legibility and spacing. There's a lot of good vocabulary here to stretch you, but I don't think anybody's going to be blown away by this story. Magical skills are all in Japanese, but I have provided a translation of the magic in a link in the video description to my Patreon post about this game. Now the game rating. I can't rate this game as good. There are many better strategic games like this, many that have gained true RPG elements, stories and play mechanics that I rate as good. In fact, not long after this game was released, Hudson released Nectaris or Military Madness, which is a far superior game, so I rate Gaia no Monshou as a fair game, but that shouldn't put you off. It's vanilla, obtuse and hard, but here's the crux of it. I couldn't stop thinking about this game when I wasn't playing it. It's got its claws into me. There is so much about this game that isn't that good because it's obtuse, like what's going on under the hood. And yet, when I got thrashed, I later found myself thinking about what could I do to beat that scenario. Granted, I like this genre and I like old games, so maybe I have more patience than some people. The biggest problem is that there are many better games in the genre to play. Strategy games, after all, can be big time sinks, and if you're time poor, it makes much more sense to sit down with, say, Languisher on the pcengine if you want a strategy game to play of this kind of vintage. It has a good engaging story, which is great for Japanese practice, and is so much better playing. And CS learned a lot from the early days and put that into Languisher. The reason to play Gaia no Monshou is because you want to experience something from the genre in its early days, and because it's a dirt cheap PC Engine game that, if you have a bit of time, is quite enjoyable to play in doses. It's definitely worth 500 yen, but for around about 1,000 yen, you could easily buy Nectaris or Military Madness as it was called on TurboGrafx, and that is simply a much better game. Oh, and one other thing to mention about this game. The music can get a little bit irritating and grating at times, so I have to knock some points for that as well. So overall, this is a 2-star or fair game on my rating scheme. As always, like, subscribe and all of that shit, and also check out this rad Rubbish Heap merch, available worldwide on Redbubble and Amazon. See the links below for how to purchase. I've been Saki Endo, and this has been a Rubbish Heap. Ja ne ne!